plagiarism in the book of Mark, as we have seen. There is plagiarism in the book of Luke, as we have seen. Mark and Luke, the authors, taking from the Old Testament to plagiarize current history and to allow a parallel between their generation and what they know to what took place in the past, allowing the audience and the carefully observing audience to understand the characters at the core of their characters, or the historical references at the core of their characters. Mark is plagiarizing, Luke is plagiarizing the Old Testament, but what about the author writing the book of Matthew? Is there any plagiarism that the author of the book of Matthew is using, just as Mark did, just as Luke did, from the Old Testament? Well, we're going to look at this, and by the end of this video, you are going to see the type of landscape, the type of literary landscape that the authors writing the Gospels are inheriting from one another and putting into practice to make their narrative seem a way in which it is not really supposed to be seen, yet the authors know. They know who they're talking about. So jumping into the book of Matthew chapter 2. Matthew 2:12-15, and being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt. Be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. Now, is this scene taken from somewhere? Is this scene plagiarized? Can we find this scene somewhere between Genesis to Malachi? Does this exist anywhere? It does. To the Kings. 1 Kings 11:29-31. And it came to pass at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way. And he had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him, rent it into 12 pieces. Jeroboam, he said, Take 10, for thus saith the Lord, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give thee 10 tribes. What happened after this happened? Still in 1 Kings 11, jumping to verse 40 now. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and went to Egypt unto the king thereof until the death of Solomon. This is blatant plagiarism. It mirrors the scene completely that is going on in the book of Matthew. And there's a reason for this. The reason for this is because the author of Matthew understands who they're writing about. They understand, just as the author of Mark understands, and just as the author of Luke understands, the author writing the book of Matthew understands who they're writing about. The one that is supposed to be fleeing into Egypt is a king of the Jews. They understand that by taking scenes from Solomon and Jeroboam's life, and for allowing Herod to play the role of Solomon and their main character, Jesus, to play the role of Jeroboam, they are figuratively alluding, and it is very fair to conclude from what they are alluding, that their main character is a king of the Jews. That's all they are alluding, and they understand that their main character is actually a king of the Jews. But a king of the Jews in what way? Are there any other scenes that the author of Matthew is depicting from between Genesis to Malachi to further establish the point that they're trying to make? Do you remember the slaughter of the children that Herod the Great is written of by the author of Matthew as doing, which is not historically accurate, but is for the narrative, it's very crucial to understand where that's coming from. Going into the book of Matthew 2:15 and 16, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth, slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coast thereof, from 2-year-olds and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Now, is this scene here? Is this scene somewhere between Genesis to Malachi? Can we find anywhere between Genesis to Malachi a scene matching someone in royal authority committing to a slaughter of children? We can. To the Chronicles. 2 Chronicles 22 and verse 1. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king in his stead, for the band of men that came with the Arabians to the camp had slain all the eldest. So Ahaziah the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, reigned. Now we're staying in the same chapter. We're going to jump down and we're going to read 7 to 12 now. 2 Chronicles 22 verse 7 to verse 12. And the destruction of Ahaziah was of God by coming to Joram. For when he was come, he went out with Jehoram against Jehu, the son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to cut off the house of Ahab. And it came to pass that when Jehu was executing judgment upon the house of Ahab, and found the princes of Judah and the sons of the brethren of Ahaziah that ministered to Ahaziah, he slew them. And he sought Ahaziah, and they caught him, for he was hid in Samaria, and brought him to Jehu. And when they had slain him, they buried him, because, said they, he is the son of Jehoshaphat, who sought the Lord with all his heart. So the house of Ahaziah had no power to keep still the kingdom. But when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed who? All the seed royal of the house of Judah. But Jehoshabeth, the daughter of the king, took Joash, the son of the king that had been slain, stole him from among the king's sons that had been slain, put him in a bedchamber. She, the daughter of this king, the wife of Jehoiada the priest, hid him from the royal Athaliah that now took the throne of her slain child, hid him from her, so that she did not kill him or slay him or slew him. He was with them hid in the house of God 6 years, and Athaliah reigned over the land. The very scene that we find, the very scene that we find in the book of Matthew, it mirrors this absolutely beautifully. The scene of Herod killing those children did not actually exist in history. That did not historically take place. That in and of itself is placed there due to the slaughter of Alexander Jannaeus. Yet, within the Bible itself, there is a slaughter of its own, similar to the one in the book of Matthew. Now, the author of the book of Matthew knows what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And they know what they're doing because they know who their main character is. Again, we find ourselves in the position of a child that is hidden and protected from slaughter. The child that is hidden and protected from slaughter in the Chronicles, according to them, is a king. Two instances taken from Genesis to Malachi of a king needing to be protected from some royal authority figure in the land of Israel wanting to kill them. In one instance, it's Jeroboam. In the next instance, the throne of Judah needs to be protected. The author of Matthew, they're making these parallels because they understand, again, that their main character is, of course, fictional, yes. This is a fictional character, but this fictional character traces back to a real man. And the real man that this fictional character traces back to is a king of Israel, or is a king of the Jews. That's the reason why that's in there. It's not because of fact. This is not supposed to be factual, and we can understand that from the genealogy in the book of Matthew. This is supposed to be in reference to a notion, to an idea, to a figurative illustration, that the character that we're seeing called Jesus, in reality, the careful reader, the careful observer, is supposed to know that this main character traces back to an actual man who was an actual king, king of Israel, king of the Jews.
Understand the deeper meaning behind the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. Discover an allegory that speaks to personal and intellectual devotional growth. Meet the Dawn of Devotion, a sacrifice for devotional evolution. This book challenges traditional interpretations of Jesus' resurrection and crucifixion. Explore the allegorical journey reflecting personal and intellectual growth. Experience a narrative that transforms your understanding of devotion. Get your copy of The Dawn of Devotion, a sacrifice for devotional evolution today, and begin your resurrection.
Now, when touching on the subject of Jeroboam, we can't ignore what Jeroboam is to the narrative within the Kings and the Chronicles. So what is Jeroboam known for? What is Jeroboam famous for? What is he famous for? To the kings. 2 Kings 14:23, in the 15th year of Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel, began to reign in Samaria, reigned 40 years, reigned 40 in 1 year. This is not the Jeroboam from the Solomon age. This is a completely different Jeroboam in a later age. Verse 24, he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. Jeroboam is famous and known for sin, and sin particular to himself. 2 Kings 3:1-3. Now Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. Reigned 12 years did he, and he wrought evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father and like his mother, for he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. When Jeroboam comes to mind, when the author of the book of Matthew is linking their main character to Jeroboam, the fame of Jeroboam immediately stands out. Jeroboam is known for religious error. Jeroboam is known for religious error. The author of Matthew connecting their main character via narrative. They're doing this via narrative. Connecting their main character via narrative to Jeroboam, they are allowing their reader to understand that their main character is and should be recognized as committing religious error. What religious error, though? To the kings. 1 Kings 12:26-24. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Jeroboam is known for the religious error that is connected to 2 idols. Jeroboam is known for the religious error that is connected to 2 idols. The author of Matthew, by taking Jeroboam's story, allows us to understand that their main character is a Jeroboam. Yes, their main character is a Jeroboam, meaning that their main character, they are a king. They are a king of Israel. They are a king of the Jews. But more importantly, though, they are allowing us to know that their main character is not simply just a king of the Jews. They are a king of the Jews. They are a king of the Jews offering to quote-unquote Israel, the denomination, and quote-unquote those that would have the character, quote-unquote Israel, 2 idols. They are a king of the Jews that is giving 2 idols to their congregation. And these 2 idols are 2 idols that are to be the religious error coming up from out of his heart and being implanted onto that congregation. What does that mean? With the author of Matthew linking their main character, Jesus, to Jeroboam, they are subtly acknowledging the fact that their Jesus, their main character, has 2 idols attached to this main character. And these 2 idols are to be known and recognized as religious error. Religious error that stems back to the creation of it from the individual for whom they are writing of, and they know who they're writing of. And religious error, 2 specific idols that will take the head away from the devotional conversation that would take on the experience of Israel. By linking their main character to Jeroboam via narrative, the author of Matthew is allowing the careful observer, the critical reader, the critical student, to understand that their main character, Jesus, is actually a real man who is a king of Israel or is a king of the Jews. Further, they subtly allow that same critical thinking student to be able to recognize that their main character is a king of the Jews offering their congregation 2 idols. So when we see the Jesus character, we need to be able to understand, are there 2 idols connected to this one character? Are there 2 idols connected to the Jesus character? Because if the author is linking Jeroboam to their main character, if Jeroboam offered 2 idols to the congregation, to his congregation, as religious error, and that became known as religious error, then the same, according to the author writing the book of Matthew by their parallel contrast via narrative, the same has to carry over to their main character, and that their main character is going to offer and does offer and will offer their audience, their congregation, 2 idols that are to be known and recognized as religious error. Now, what are those 2 idols of their main character? Going to the Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 11, 23 to 27. For I received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it, and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye, as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as oft as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Lord's death till he come. Wherefore whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of what? Shall be guilty of the body and the blood of the Lord. The two most blatant idols that are offered through the Jesus character, which lay the foundation for this character's relevance, is this character's body and this character's blood. These are the two greatest idols that Jeroboam, that figurative Jeroboam, now remember, figurative Jeroboam is actually in reality a king of the Jews. That figurative Jeroboam is giving to their congregation. The blood and the body of figurative Jeroboam. Going to the book of John. John 6:53-54. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Whosoever eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. This is very, very connected. This is language that this main character would never have said in the book of Mark, but somehow generations later it gets attached. Why? Because generations later it's really understood, it's still understood who the narrative is about and the framework that's going on here. Because figurative Jeroboam has to and will always give two idols to their congregation that is supposed to be noted as religious error. Romans 5 and verse 9, much more then, being now justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. Still in the book of Romans 3:24 and 25, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God hath sent forth to be a propitiation through faith in his blood, to declare his righteousness for the remission of sins that are past through the forbearance of God. The author of Matthew, by taking Jeroboam's narrative and fixing it to their main character, they know what they're doing. They're allowing their reader to know that their main character is a king of the Jews. They're allowing their reader to know that their main character is a king of the Jews, one, and a king of the Jews that has advanced a belief structured around two idols. That's why the author of Matthew has this in there. They understand. Mark understands it. Luke understands it. Matthew understands it. So does Mark, so does John, and so does the author of the Acts. They all understand that they're writing about the same historical king that gave the same two idols for his deified character. This Jesus never existed and never will. Never was here to come back anywhere. That's not the point. The point is cultural. The point is philosophical, and the point is figurative. They understand who they're writing about, and they give us the context clues for who they're writing about by the references and by the citations that they use within their narrative. This can't be missed. And ultimately, it's not supposed to be missed, because everything that we're reading is in dedication to a specific king of Israel within the generation of Mark, Matthew, and Luke, and John, that was held dear and that was revered. There was only one individual fitting this. They know who that is, and they are articulating their position through and through.
Ever wondered how to truly connect with the Bible? In just 60 seconds, you'll discover a unique way to deepen your faith. Knowing Bible is a course crafted to bring you closer to the Bible and yourself. Tailored to fit your learning goals, it offers a personal journey. Through readings, reflections, and interactive classroom dynamics, you'll grow spiritually. Assignments are designed to give you space for personal devotion. This course helps you envision a devotional experience that truly suits you. Imagine a course that meets you where you are and takes you deeper. Don't miss this chance to transform your spiritual life. Click the link in the description for more information.
The authors, piecing together each and every single one of those gospel narratives, do so through plagiarism for a very real reason. They're doing so because they understand who they're writing about, and they need who they're writing about. They need that narrative to sound authentic, to gravitate toward a specific audience. that is not entirely Jewish, that is not entirely, I should say, Hebrew. Gentile audiences will not know anything concerning the context structure that is going on within Mark, Luke, John, the Acts, and the book of Matthew. Gentile audiences will not know because Genesis to Malachi is not ultimately known. The author writing the book of Matthew, they are taking citations from the life of Jeroboam and from the life of the kings because they understand that their main character in reality is a king of the Jews, and a king of the Jews specifically whose body and whose blood is supposed to be consumed for a cult or an occult belief that is framed around a specific narrative. We have to remember culture, we have to remember age. In 2024, we can't get caught up in what we're reading. Can't get caught up in what we're reading. Have to be able to use intellect, and we have to be able to separate our devotional conscience from our human being if we're going to attack these things in a way that is relevant to our personal and devotional growth and development. The main character, the figurative Jeroboam that the author of Matthew is writing about, has given to their congregation two idols, their body and their blood. But what's interesting is in the book of the Psalms, Psalm 50, 12-14, if I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine and the fullness thereof. Will I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Offer unto God thanksgiving and pay thy vows unto the Most High. Wait a minute. I thought that in the book of Leviticus, the smell of these things is what that deity consumed, right? They were scheduled to offer things, especially blood and organs, because that's what their deity ate. I thought that was the narrative in Leviticus. So why is it saying something different in the book of the Psalms? Why is it that not even the voice that is here in the book of Psalms, not even they would consume what the ancients were offering? So if they are not willing to consume, if this voice is not willing to consume what the ancients were offering, are we going to assume that what should be modernly offered through body and through blood of a God-man is something that this same voice will accept? I think we need to take some time to reflect on the intention that is actually going on from Genesis to Malachi, because once you get into Matthew to the Revelation, you're actually entered into an emperor cult. The fame of Hellenized rulers is the extension of their life as a god. This is really, it should be no surprise, and it should be absolutely not surprising that the legacy did continue through the Herodian lineage, because that's who the author of the book of Matthew is writing about. Their figurative Jeroboam is a king of the Herodian lineage, a king of the Jews, you might say also. And what's also interesting to note is that the location of where Jeroboam is born in Bethlehem. So the narrative of maintaining the position of their main character being born in Bethlehem, attached to Bethlehem, is a narrative that also comes from the Old Testament. Through and through, the author of Matthew, the authors of the Gospels are sticking to this Bethlehem narrative, this fleeing into Egypt narrative, this narrative of the Son of the Highest. They're sticking to this narrative because they understand the critical historical reference that it is alluding to. The only ones that are slow to catch up are us. But they know, and especially the author of the book of Matthew knows, that their main character is the sin, especially through their two idols, of their body and their blood, of individual devotional conversations and characters that would experience, quote unquote, Israel,